So this is the lab. I want you guys to write a loop. So here is the health potion. So I wanted you guys to write a loop after adding a fourth health potion. So if you want to add a fourth health potion, you change this from 3 to 4 because you need to have enough size in your array to store them all. And here is, there's going to be 10 potions in there. Same with potion costs. So I'm going to add a fourth potion cost at 40 gold. So here's where we were adding it before. So I'm just going to delete that because we're not going to use that at all. And instead, I'm going to start with writing a for loop that goes that loops 4 times because that's how many potion groups we have. And the first thing is I just want to print out the potion at that index. And the nice part is that instead of using like a number here like 1, this variable I already goes from 0 to 3. So if I just change this from 1 to be using I instead, now I can print out how many potions are at that package. So I just put a breakpoint here. Oops. Put a breakpoint here. Okay. So I'll just run this, and now my loop will, all it will do will print out 7, 8, 6, 10. Cool, that's how many potions I have in each slot. So if I wanted to add up each of these numbers, I need to have a variable called total potions, which starts at 0. And instead of printing these out, why don't I just take total potions, I set it equal to potion package at I. And you could do total potions plus that because you need to add to this, or the short form of this, remember, is plus equals. That's all you need. And then you do cout. All right. So that's that. So now I'll print out how many potions I have. This starts at 0. I'll put a breakpoint here just to step through this. So this thing starts at 0. Starts at 0. I starts at 0 as well. So it's going to give me, if you guys can see, this array here has those numbers in it, 7, 8, 6, 10. So total potions is going to be equal to the array at I. I'll put I here as well. So I is 0, so it's going to add 7 into total potions. Cool. Next time through the loop, I is going to be equal to 1, so it's going to add 8 into total potions, 15. And then 6 into total potions, which is 21. And then 10 into total potions, which is 31. Okay? So this is exactly how we're going to set up the other loop. In fact, it's so similar that I'm going to take all of this that I just did, go down to here, what's calculating the potion costs, and I'm going to change this from total potions to total potion costs. And that's all you have to do for the second one. Literally just have another variable that adds the result of these two multiplied by one another. So same thing if I put a breakpoint here. So total potion costs start at 0. Okay. Potion costs has this many elements in the array, and potion package has this many elements in the array. So 20, 35, 40. So total potion cost starts at 0, so it's going to be equal to 20 times 7, 140. And then it's going to be equal to 140 plus 30 times 8, which is 240, so 380. Plus 5 times 6, so 410. And then finally, 810 is the last one. Total cost is 810. That's what we print out over here. Okay. That's what we see over here. Total potions is 31. The total potion expense is 810 gold. And the reason why we use a loop here is because if we ever want to add more, all we have to do is increase the size of this to be 7. And 1, 2, 3. And loop over these things 7 times. Now I added 7 total potions.
You didn't increase the top.
Yeah, this is right. So another thing is that, see I have 61, 81 cents per potion, and then total potion cost is 870 gold. So notice that I actually have the number 7 here, and here, and here, and here. This is where you could use the const int total potions, potion count. I can set that equal to 7. Use that here, here, and here, and here. So if I notice a pattern with where I'm using the same number multiple times, I'll do something like this instead, where I'll move it into a variable. And that way I only have to change this thing once, and it changes everywhere. So then I could add more potions again, if I wanted to. Okay. So that's arrays. Let's get into some more examples with using arrays. Remember last week I talked about objects and how things like the barbarian, objects are comprised of data members and function members. Data members describe what that object is, while function members give you ability to change those data members or have that object do something. Just like when we described a car has a description of how many doors it has, what's the model, what's the year, but it can do things like accelerate, or you can open a door, or you can start it. Example of strings. Okay, so let's do an example of using more arrays for a very simple example of a tic-tac-toe game. And this is not really an interactive game. This is more just showing you how tic-tac-toe is, but I'm going to make it interactive for you. Let's go over this program and see how it works. Looks like there's a board here. You guys all hopefully know what tic-tac-toe is. It's a 3x3 grid. There's 3 rows and 3 columns, and each intersection of row and column can either be an X, a circle, or nothing. So this program runs by having an empty slot and then filling that slot in. All right. Let's see what this program looks like. I'll go over this and then I'll have you guys, I'll share this with you. I want to just break this down a little bit because I'll explain each of the pieces up here. So this is using another type of array. So this is called a multi-dimensional array. So up to now we've been using a single dimensional array that has one number inside square brackets. You can put multiple square brackets one after the other. It's basically an array of arrays. That's what these things are treated as. And they're perfect for puzzle games. They're perfect for things like tic-tac-toe. I use this for Tetris, when you make Tetris. Anything that's like a grid-based thing, like Fire Emblem, if you guys ever play Fire Emblem, like the grid-based combat. Anything that's like rows and columns of things, multi-dimensional arrays are great for that, because they let you define things in the context of rows and columns. So this is an example of a tic-tac-toe board where there are 3 rows and there are 3 columns. You know that because declared 2 variables called rows and columns, and then he declared another array. This time the array is of characters. Characters, remember, are just a single letter. The first thing he does is declares an array called board, and he puts 3 elements in that array. You know there's 3 elements because rows is equal to 3. This is 3, right? And this is also 3. So in addition to declaring it, he also initializes it in the same way. So what's kind of interesting here is that you guys look at the formatting here. It looks kind of like a tic-tac-toe board, like with the way the X's and O's are laid out. This is an intentional thing that he's doing to make it clear as to what the layout of that tic-tac-toe board is. Remember that white space doesn't matter, so this also works. And remember in the last example, I showed you how you can use curly braces to initialize elements in an array. Let me just show you a simplified version of this board. Let's imagine a tic-tac-toe board with just 3 columns and no rows. Okay? Yeah, character simple board. I'm just going to do this as an example. Equal to, I understand, say O blank space and X. Can you guys see how I declared an array of characters here and initialized 0, 1, and 2 here? Just like what we did for the potion example. This is element 0, element 1, element 2. There's 3 elements inside of it. Okay. What if I had 3 of these variables? Why don't I create 1, 2, 3? I'll create 3 arrays. And I'll make this one X, this one X, this one blank. I could do that, right? So I have 3 different variables. 1, 2, 3. Each of these things is initialized the same way. But remember I said that you can use arrays instead of creating multiple variables. So that's exactly what we're doing here. We're creating an array that has 3 columns inside of it 3 times. Okay? We're doing what this is doing, but all in one line. And the way you initialize that is exactly the same. This right here, that's index 0. This whole thing is index 0. And inside of it, there's 0, 1, 2. This is index 1. And inside of it is 0, 1, 2. And this is index 2. And that's 1, 0, 1, 2. So he just took this, which was 3 separate variables, and he made it into a single variable here. So I undo all this. So that's what the syntax is. So each one of these is a row, right? Row 0, row 1, row 2. Column 0, column 1, column 2. Okay. So if I asked for row 0, column 0, which one of those values will I get? This one here, the top left corner. If I ask you guys for row 0, column 1, which value do I get here? X, right here. What about row 2, column 2? Row 2, this is row 0, this is row 1, row 2. Column 2 is column 0, column 1, column 2. Okay? So you access them the same way you access a regular array. However, if you have a multi-dimensional array like this, you need to specify both the first and the second indices. And also, this is a perfect example of where a nested loop comes in. You guys love nested loops. How many times is this going to loop? 3 times, right? Because we know there's 3 rows. How many times is this loop going to loop? 3 times, 2, right? This one here, this thing's going to run 3 times. The outside's going to run 3 times. So when you add it all up, total times, however many times it's going to loop, how many times is this going to run? This line right here. Whereas if this runs 3 times,
9.
Yeah, and this runs 3 times every time inside, you're going to have 3 times 3. You're going to have 9 times through that loop, which is exactly how many slots I have in my tic-tac-toe board. I have 9 of these, right? So here, that's saying row 1, column 0. Where is that in our board here? What does that represent? Row 1, column 0. The blank space here, right? So he's setting that equal to X, and he's printing it all out again. All right? So here's the lab. Now that that's hopefully something that I'm going to have you guys use this file. I'm going to put this up on Zool, but this time please don't edit the one on Zool. Make a copy of it. Tic-tac-toe board. So this should be simple. I want you guys to use your neighbor. So I want you to take that program and just make everything blank by default. Okay? Just get rid of all the X's and I'll make them all blank. And I want you to pick a neighbor and just play tic-tac-toe once with your neighbor. And I want you to recreate those moves that you made step by step inside the program, one line of C++ for every move that you made. So total, if you guys made 7 moves total, there should be 7 lines of C++ code for every move that you made. So use MS Paint or something to play tic-tac-toe real fast. If you don't have a partner to play tic-tac-toe with, let me know. I'll come play tic-tac-toe with you. I'm very good. And then recreate those moves that you made step by step inside the blank program. Okay, so take this program, and the first thing I want you to do is take this program and make all of these things blank. Make this blank here, just empty them all out. And then here, you're going to basically do this for every move that you made. All right, you're going to repeat that line for every move that you made.
Wow, you're a terrible artist. Put my X right in the center.
Okay, it's up on Zool. Just use MS Paint. Yeah, just X all those for start, and play tic-tac-toe with someone, play with you, or you guys play together.
Put my X.
Go! Make them all blank by default. I'll play tic-tac-toe with you.
Yes. Do we have to change this number 2 to change which?
That's what you're going to do. You're going to basically, we're going to recreate those moves. We have to play tic-tac-toe first. Right. The first thing you guys do is play tic-tac-toe, then you do the move. We can play tic-tac-toe up here too.
There you go. I'm playing the board.
You be whatever you want. I'll be the other. No. So we should mark. Can you write down 1 there, and then 2 here? And then order.
And the range is actually first time.
You just copy all of this.
So I was just liking the idea. Ended up with like 4,500 points. We still lost.
You can guess that right here. So I want you to write that in that order on there, on the program.
Okay.
We go top left corner, middle, bottom left corner.
Some bitch. Did you lose, Chris? I lost. Failed you. That's what we're using.
Okay, so yeah, take those, in those moves in those order. And I want you to leave it blank though. So see how it's setting X. So I want you to recreate that in the order that you did. Row,
Let you win for the sake of education.
Yeah, after every move that you do, print out the state of the board. Like, oh. Yeah, so which was your first move? What was your first move here? 0, 0. That was your first move, was at X, right? That's what you typed in? So what is that? What do you basically, what row and column are you going to assign first? What is this row and column? First type.
0, 0.
0, 0.
It's the same way that was the same.
Okay, then print it, yeah, print out the board, and then just basically print out the next move down here, and then print out the board again. What is the next move that you guys did? What row and column is that?
0, 2.
Yeah. I can't remember this one or this one.
I can't wait either.
Just do it by hand.
So then after we do it, what do we do next?
So you count you keep track of the order, what move was first, put a little number next to the columns first.
So now we do.
So see how here it's setting row 1, column 0 to X. Well, make sure that what row and column is that? Boom. Yeah, but what is that turn into? Remember, row starts at 0, 1. So set 2, 2 equal to X. Print out the board, which you did here, and then below that, do that all over again. So right board. So right before that, I want you to basically, you're going to be copying and pasting this section a lot. So then your next move was at what row? Yeah, just do that again. I just want you to repeat that every time for each move in order.
Oh my
Oh.
God.
Do we have to do?
No.
Well, yeah, I guess we do.
Oh my God. Get me there.
Yeah, so what was your first move? What row and column was your first move at?
0, 0. You're gonna.
What is that doing right there? What is that setting up? Is it 1? Yeah, so change that. Okay, then print it out, which you're doing here. Now I want you to set the second move after you printed it out.
So then we just copy paste.
What is the second move? You can delete that. What is this?
Yeah.
So again, what is your second move? What row and column is your second move?
0, 2.
Okay, so go ahead and change the board. Well, no, you have to keep that. Otherwise, you lose that first move. So copy that and then put it into a. Yeah. Then what move was that? Oh, wait. Was your second move at 0, 0, or was your second move? And who was it? Was it an X or was it a O? Right. Do that. Yeah, you can. Or it goes draw. So do all this. Just copy that. Copy that whole thing, that whole section. See out in the for loop and everything. Okay, so 0, 0 was your first move?
It's gonna be an easier way.
My first move.
0, 0 was your first move. Okay, that looks good. So what was your second move? Okay, so set 1, 1. Well, this starts at 0, row 0. Well, this column starts at 0, 1. Add another line. Add another line where you're setting the board. Add another line. You can use 0 or low.
Then we go and put it in here.
And then what's the third? And then I'll come around, I'll check your
Which
work.
I am incredibly lucky. I don't know exactly.
0, 2 was the third one.
I think this is just showing that per move. We're always updating the top part.
You print the file, so we're going to save you a lot of zeros.
Okay. X-axis. I just like looking at it.
Just copy the whole thing and paste it.
Oh yeah. You go right to left first.
Oh, bro.
What's your birthday?
Oh, I'm trying to make a small dungeon.
Breaking. You're right. So we are.
Someone's editing the network file again? Who is it? I want to know. I want to know who's editing the network file. Someone wrote a function.
It's probably me.
Is it you? It is you.
Son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Who's the mysterious person changing it?
It's confusing everyone because everyone's like hitting the I want to see X.
I got mine from my
I'm saying
desktop.
I haven't even typed anything on this.
We'll find out.
Why is it breaking?
The investigator coming out right now.
Huh?
So this is gonna be row.
Yeah, someone edited this function.
Someone put in boobs too.
What?
Oops. Is that you?
No, I did not put
Oh,
in
you
boobs.
don't want to climb up to it?
I did the refresh board though. I told you that already.
Yeah, someone else added boobs. So for those of you guys that don't want to have boobs and refresh board functions in there,
Who doesn't want that? Refresh board function is.
I'm going to.
I love boobs as long as they're on.
Okay. I put that file back up there. So for these of you guys that are confused, because this is not helpful for a lot of people to put in the functions, just grab that file again. If you see something that says refresh board, just grab that file from Google again. Copy it locally first, and then edit it.
Sorry.
It's all good.
I'm trying to run two different arrays, one after the other.
What do you mean run two different arrays?
Like it's running one and posting the other one.
What do you mean run? Like you can't run an array. What are you trying to
Supposed
do?
to execute them.
Execute, what do you mean?
Because
That's still
I'm
not making sense.
having it to randomly pick you a character.
Okay.
And that's supposed to randomly pick you.
I see. So you have two arrays, one of heroes, which you're going to randomly pick a hero, and then a second array, which you're going to randomly pick a hero.
My problem is when I say yes,
Probably because the maximum number, how big is your array on inventory? And how many items are you adding to your inventory? Is that seem like 10 to you? That seems like a lot less than 10 to you.
oh, that's right. I originally had it at such 100.
The first one worked.
You guys play tic-tac-toe?
What?
You want to play tic-tac-toe? Bring up MS Paint.
They want tic-tac-toe.
I know.
There. Now it's
It didn't print out my answer.
okay, so just draw a grid.
Wasn't the first one.
Tic-tac-toe. You ever play tic-tac-toe?
Copy and paste it.
Now they set up on the top.
Edit it like I just did.
So it doesn't matter if you wrote one. Was that first?
Did you just edit it to be done?
Set.
This is really wrong.
I bet that's what you just did. Double check it again.
We did it, this is wrong.
Alright. That was just dick, man. Make sure you didn't like save it. Everything and save it. I got yelled at because I put in a function and edited it.
I just copied
And it was very bad.
One.
Bad.
Thought.
I didn't win at all. Out of 5 games.
What?
Oh, I was saying the way he did it was how you were trying to do it.
What now? Scott Swerve Black and red.
Which would have been the hardest part.
No, what is it for real? Black Desert Online?
Cool. So now
Like
you have the
a-
order which the loser happens to be. I want you to basically take that board and make it lose all length by default.
The game is so long. You have tons of
That doesn't necessarily sound good.
Okay? And then once you recreate those two one at a time. See how this one here? What row is that in there? What row?
Okay, yeah.
Row one. Three columns. Column three, okay? This is row 0, row 1, row 2. You can write 0, 1, 2 here.
Except right now.
Create numbers. 0, 1, 2. This is column 0, column 1, column 2. Okay. So it was setting row 1, column 0. Which one is that? Row 1, column 0. So what was our first move now? So what row or column? 0. Okay, so I want you to change that to the first two. X was your first one. So what was your second move? On a new line, you want to hit another line. And put the second.
One row.
So that tricks back, but it doesn't play. Yeah.
Because I
Doesn't
have
display the names.
Are you printing out the name anywhere?
Yeah.
Where?
I see out right here in this bed.
If I is equal to 1,
But I
and you're rolling a random I is equal to 0, I never will be 1. Why are you looping there, I guess, is the question. Do you need to loop? Why don't you just print out the form?
Oh, it is working. It's just small.
Yeah, because that.
Row 2, column 1.
Yeah, take care of it. You need to have spaces in there, not empty. Yeah, there's a difference between a space and deleting it. You actually have to put a blank space in each of these. Yeah.
If you wanted to print out each move one at a time.
It'd be nice to, if you don't get a chance to do that, at least print out, make sure the board at the end matches what you guys are doing. That's okay. That's okay. Is that what your board looked like at the end? Does that match? Cheap one. You basically have to copy this whole thing, that whole loop, and put it in between. Yeah, this is what you got. That's right. Awesome. So, next one. Yeah, is that in the order that you made the move? So 2, 2, 0, 0.
You might have to change.
That's pretty cool though.
So you actually didn't do them in that order. Yeah, it should be 1, 2, 3.
Worst case scenario.
Okay, yeah, the order isn't as important because as long as I'm more worried about
Probably because he has like,
as long as after the matches out. Yeah, just in case the whole bunch. And I'll show you guys how to work around that later in the future. You can make a function that does that for you. Right here. You get Michael?
Yeah, I just messed up the grid I was doing.
Yeah, you'll know if you did it right because it should match what you did.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Print it out?
Just like this.
Is that what you're up with? And X1. It prints out, is that the order in which you made the moves?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, you just did a loop for each one?
Oh, instead of just the X.
Yeah, scroll up. Does that match the order that you guys
Yeah.
played?
It wasn't showing the X, but it was by itself. It's on the X.
Jeez, necromancer spots. Necromancer rolled a bowl of.
All right.
The first blade.
It's gonna be a big ass file.
Necromancer not rolled it.
We just put everything on this.
Cause that's all we're doing. That's what's on the base.
First move was.
Copy paste that one line over and over again.
Yeah.
I played it and then I. Yeah, I sure didn't.
No. I just figured tic-tacs on that. Pay attention,
I wasn't even trying to take my class. I wasn't even trying to learn it, right? Because you heard I was always got to spell me.
I'm like, you were playing tic-tacs, so you forgot to take it. You know? Fucking days.
This is why we're all so. It was supposed to be just. Oh, fuck, man.
I don't know if you ever, first time I really played that was Assassin's Creed
Me too.
4.
Me too.
And I got so into it. I was like, dude, yeah, it was cool for an old ass game.
It's like, no matter what you're moving, you gotta show me.
Yeah, dude. And I'm like, this is just like the top. What's so
Oh, well, you're
So this is the classic prop. So not that you program really hard,
you get your milk all over your
headers, so you actually have a good structure for your headers. Now you're running into the problem where A needs B, but B needs A. They both need so games
Yeah,
this is where you need forward declaration.
And I was always just
So
waiting for the
in here, you ever heard about forward declarations? So forward declarations are a way to promise C++, hey, don't worry, it's there, just ignore this for now, just assume
I was
so
thinking
that
about
is
that
literally right class people, as if you're about to write the whole class all over, class people, but just put a semicolon in it. And now,
And then it would always say like, do you want to be call stalemate, this and that. Like, no, bitch.
Alright, and then I'll punch you out.
And then when they get down to like,
next is same thing for
they
all.
start jumping across the board.
So this one is a little trickier because looks like your. This is why like we rarely include headers inside of the headers. Since you're including people, people are probably including warriors more than it is. First, can you open up that people value?
Well, I'll be like, look, you turned off my shit I was working real hard with and pissed me off. Oh, my ass. Oh, my fucking arm actually not punching.
No, it's including buildings.
Oh, motherfucker.
Basically, every single header it goes in order.
I'm just saying, I give him an easy 20 on people's desk.
Just a 20 That's a cheap ride. That's a cheap ride. Damn.
Yeah, because you have to put this here. Because people worry this
And it was a hard ass swing, dude. Freaking on X.
this thing is always in there. Someone else is improving things. So, I almost would rather have you just
I had that It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Big fucking burger.
Well, I had this other chicken that it was like a real chicken.
and then finally here, you have to do a 4 damage. Warrior.
And then bacon shrimp.
It's the same thing at the top.
Wide, big, glorious.
That was a good game, because number one, they put out multiplayer, for God's sakes.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go home and watch reviews.
They got kind of like the original.
Every time I see that, or show on, I always end up
Same thing, you want to find their enemies and top them. So I will show you, you've just experienced the kind of hell that makes header. There's a way to set this up so you don't have to worry about it.
I'm on like, I try to watch every single episode.
You don't have to rebuild it.
Yeah, it's 4,000. And they're still making more.
Rebuild it literally, so forget everything that's already started. All right, so let's go over the answer here.
It's like, wait, that was 20 episodes ago.
So I played with Michael, and we played tic-tac-toe. Our moves look like this. We made 9 moves. So I started at 0, 0. Then I went to the middle here. And then at 3, 2, 0. And then 4 was 1, 0. Was 0. And then 1, 2. And then 2, 1. And 0, 1. And then 0, 2. And then 2, 2. So these were our moves. And ultimately our board ended up looking like... Oops. So our Tetris board looked like this. XXO, XOOX, 0X0. You should match and make sure it looks the same. If you wanted to, you could also print out the board in between every time that you set it, just to give an idea for what your board looks like. So if you just paste this every time, after every single assignment, and you'd have to do this 9 times. And yes, there is a better way to do this using functions. You could write a function that does that. But if you did it that way, oh, that's not very readable. Let me do this. Paste this on top of everything.
I don't know why I play so well. It's like your hand disappeared behind my phone, so it looked like
So if you wanted to, you could play out the moves one at a time. So this should match what you and I did, Michael. There's the moves. And this is just showing you tic-tac-toe. This is a non-interactive version of tic-tac-toe. We will make a version of tic-tac-toe that is like you can actually play like live and play it every time because this is hard-coded. This is more an example of how to use multi-dimensional arrays and to stick stuff in those arrays and print them out. Okay? This is indexing into those arrays. You can imagine for a Tetris board there is a lot more of these indices, but for now that is what the program is. Okay, so I just want to share with you guys the homework first because the homework is going to be based out of the book.
We're making checkers?
No, we're not making checkers. The homework is that there is, because we're about to get into SFML stuff and I kind of want to give the rest of the class to just play with SFML. I want you guys to take the word jumble game from the end of chapter 3 and write it. It's basic, straight out of the book, copy that program, or you can download it as well. And I want you to improve it by adding a scoring system. This is straight out of the book exercise, and you get score based on how long the word is, okay? And you're going to deduct points based on if the player asks for a hint. So the word jumble game looks like this. If you don't want to type it out, you don't have to. It might help you to understand it more. This is more multi-dimensional array work. So jumble is that. So you basically have to guess what that word is. It's been shuffled around. So you can type hint. What do you guys think it is? Maybe it starts with persistent. I think that actually is the answer, but I'll type it wrong. Sorry, it's not it. There you go. So that's the game. There's basically 5 words that it could be, that it could possibly be. And the goal is to add a scoring system based on how long the word is and how many points you get. So that's the homework. And straight out of the book, chapter 3. It's the end of chapter 3 homework, this one here. So I'll copy both files to Zool. This is the homework. So it's chapter 3. Put a homework folder here. So copy that. It has the files that you need for the word jumble, and use that to make the homework.
That's it, just a score?
Yep, just a score. Okay. Any questions on that? Use the book. If you don't have the book, does anyone not have the book? I'll put the book on Zool. If you don't have the book, let me know because I will get it for you. There's a PDF of it as well, also a written one. Okay. Any questions about this? We have about half an hour to go over SFML.
I remember I was at a terminal. You got the bowl of Gallagher the bow. Like as soon as the match you get to replace your late machine guns at bottom, and you get canceled.
Okay, so you guys are going to do a word jumble program for homework, right? But you guys are probably playing games that aren't involving text. I don't know when the last time you guys ever played a text-based adventure game would be. Tetris? Tetris is not text-based? Text-based adventure game? Has anyone here ever played a text-based adventure game? Zork or anything? You guys ever hear these things called MUDs, multi-user dungeons?
This game called
Vagabond? Okay. You guys know what MUDs are? Anyone know what MUDs are? MUDs, multi-user dungeons.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Obviously everyone knows what MMOs are, right?
No.
Everyone knows what WoW is.
That was back in the day. What is an MMO?
No one knows what WoW is. That's sad. Yeah, it's like Pac-Man. So an MMO is actually kind of a direct descendant of what MUDs are. MUDs are MMOs, but they're all text-based MMOs. But they have a lot of the same ideas as WoW does. Imagine WoW, but instead of using WASD to move your character, you're typing words like go north, or go south, go east. You're killing like a boar. You're like kill boar, and you get experience, and you get items from it. Mods are kind of cool though because they themselves they actually have way more content than any MMO out there. They don't have any graphics per se. They're all using text, but they're free to play. You can play them anywhere. You can also play them from any machine, and they persist your account. You create an account, you play, you level up your character. I spent hundreds of hours back in the day playing MUDs because they were free, and you get a lot of the same joy out of leveling up and getting your character stronger. But eventually we had to move on from text-based things to things that used graphics to display things in the game. So I kind of want to introduce you guys to this. C++ to this point doesn't have any built-in ability to draw graphics to the screen. C++ by default has nothing but what you've been using so far, which is to write text to a black and white window. That's it. Has nothing that lets you draw triangles or squares or circles or anything like that. And those are the building blocks for making games, though. A game is really all about displaying information to the player that they can interact with in a way that is not like a text-based thing. Whether it's a turn-based game or whether it's a live-action game, everything ultimately boils down to presenting shapes to the player. So SFML is a way to augment what C++ does and let you draw things and create windows that let you play games. So on the left here, there's some examples of shapes that you can draw. By combining these various shapes and colors, you can make a game like Tetris here. Right? This is a game of Tetris that I created in SFML. Very classic kind of style Tetris with upcoming blocks, and you can hold blocks and you can rotate things. It draws text as well on screen. This is an actual live game. I actually have a copy of this. This is my Tetris game. So you can play this, like, if you guys ever played a more recent Tetris, you can like save blocks. There's like ghost pieces as well, and you can like lower things down. This is all made in SFML, so there's not really any crazy fancy graphics, but you can see this is totally Tetris, right? And all made with just using squares and colors. Nothing crazy, right? So this is an example of a game written in C++ using SFML to draw objects in a grid-like fashion. So Tetris here, you can see there's a grid behind there. And it's all done in SFML, all right? So what SFML gives you the ability to do is to be able to use C++ to open windows like these, like with an actual taskbar, as well as draw shapes to the screen. Okay. Any questions on that? C++ by default doesn't have it. SFML also gives you the ability to port these games to like Linux or Mac. There's also another version of SFML. SFML is kind of made to be a simple version of another library called SDL, which is called Simple Direct Media Library. SDL works on Android, iPhone, Linux, Mac, anything that you want to port a game with. In fact, a lot of Valve uses SDL to augment C++ to make a lot of their games. You guys ever vote for Humble Bundle games, like the simple games that people buy, like 2D games that you might buy, even 3D games you can do. Most of those games use SDL, which is a little bit more complicated to use than SFML. So that's why I picked SFML, because I feel like it's a little bit of a lower learning curve to get it to draw stuff to the screen. All right, questions? All right, so let's see this thing in action. So SFML is comprised of, basically you download something off the internet and you make a Visual Studio project and you say, hey, Visual Studio, here are all the things that I just downloaded. Add them to the program I'm about to write. And when you do that, it unlocks a bunch of new types of code that you can write that's using those downloaded libraries that you got. And that new code involves things like create a window, draw a shape to the screen, change the color of those shapes, change the size of that shape, change the position of those shapes. Okay? So I made what's called an engine. And this thing here is very simple thing.
Is this the same one from prototyping?
Yeah. No, this is not actually an engine yet.
Okay.
The one that I gave you guys is just a simple. This is literally just one CPP file. Let me first show you what happens when you run this now. That's what you get. This is like the seed that all games are built upon, right? A window and something presented to the player. Right? You can make hundreds of thousands of different games if you had the ability to just do that. Create a window and draw something to the screen. This is a very different kind of thing than see out and text to the screen. This is you actually drawing a physical like thing. And this could be a texture. This could be a 3D model. Let me show you some examples here. So here's an example of Pong. Aw, OpenAL32 is missing. This is probably because I can't show you Pong. Hopefully these machines will run some of the other ones.
No, the machines we have.
So here's an example of drawing 3D objects using Sfml, using OpenGL. So see how it's rotating an actual cube and I'm moving it around. Okay. Some other things you can do, hopefully this will run. Shader not supported. Wow, these video cards are so old they don't support any of the OpenGL shaders. All right. All this stuff was working great at home. Here's an example of being able to add buttons and images. I don't know why it's showing trolls. That's a really old movie.
Is it the one with Madonna in it?
Might be. It might be that one.
Your favorite movie?
While this is going. I'm actually going to take this here. So let's just move forward here because there's a version of it that I was going to show you that has Pong running. But you could do things. At the very least, you can create circles that draw on screen. So you can also imagine this is a Pong ball. You can also draw rectangles. Those are your paddles. You can draw text to the screen. That's your score. You can have two people playing on the same keyboard. It knows how to use keyboards to drive the behavior of the things that it's drawing on screen. So let's go over the program really fast. Now that you guys have seen the majesty that is the green circle of what Sfml can do. Let me break down a little bit about how this is going. There's still a function called main. It ultimately all starts with that. That's how it all starts, okay? Sfml does a few things for you that simplify the creation of windows. For instance, one of the first things I do, forget about the rest of this, is create a new variable called window. And you're starting to see the usage of namespaces here. You guys have used std namespace before for cout and endl, right? Render window is a new variable type that lives in the SF namespace. SF stands for simple and fast. They just decided to name it something short because you write this a lot. So SF has a variable type called a render window. A render window is literally the thing that actually runs when you run this program. Can you guys guess by looking at this code how big this window is? 200 by 200. And can you guys see the title of that window? It probably says,
Welcome to SDVA.
can you guys see at the bottom it says welcome to SDVA103?
Oh yeah.
So there's a string and then there's a window width and a height. Okay, how do we know? There's yet another variable type called video mode in the SF namespace. And this variable type takes two arguments to it, just like how strings can take multiple arguments of a width and a height. So if I were to change this, why don't we make this thing like 1,000? Make a really skinny window. That could be our game, right? That could be a game of you. Everyone ever play Downwell? play Downwell. It's a pretty cool like Android or iPhone game and Steam game. It's like $5. It's a Twitch-based game. It just came out.
What's it called?
Downwell. It's like an endless dungeon shooter, but you go down a well and you have a gun. And if you touch the ground, you lose your combo, but you can bounce off enemies and you can shoot your gun. There's only one button. You tap a button to either jump or you shoot. But you can only shoot while you're in the air, and you have a limited number of shots. Anyway, it looks like this, because Downwell is like super tall. Like you see a vertical well that you're going down. So you can see that's all that's doing. So there's a window here that's creating. So this is me creating the window. What about here? The new variable type called a circle shape. Can you guess what this might be here? Size. Yeah, that's actually the radius of the circle. So we can change the size of this guy here, right? So it's a smaller circle. Okay. So here's a variable called shape. Remember I talked about objects and member functions and data members? This shape, this is a variable I call shape. So I'm going to just rename this just for sake of clarity. Give me a name, Eric. Eric, you want to give me a name?
Ball.
Ball? Balls?
Yeah, ball.
Here we go, balls. So this is a variable name that I created. I'll just call it Keith for now. So what type of variable is Keith here? What am I? It's a circle shape, right? Remember, when you declare variables, the variable type is first. So int, like potion count. Okay? So Keith is a circle shape type. What are all the things I can do to a circle shape? Here's one way you can find out. If you type this and then put a dot, you get a list of all the functions you can call on a circle shape. Okay. Does this make sense, you guys? What I'm doing? Because you're about to do a lab on this. All right. What am I doing here?
Filling in the color.
Sure. And what is it filling it into?
Green color.
So how do you... You're filling it into Keith? So see how it actually has two namespaces that it's filling in. I don't think you guys knew this, but the number of namespaces that you have, there's no limit to them. It's like 200. It's really like 256. But it's in the SF namespace. Under the color namespace under SF, there's a color called green.
So if we were to put using namespace SF, we won't have to write SF color.
Right. Exactly. And you wouldn't have to do this. You could get rid of all this. And everywhere where you see SF, : you just delete. Yeah.
And you can still use, you can still put using namespace STD if you need.
If you do, yeah. You can use both if you need to. I'm not going to for now for clarity because I want you guys to understand that there's multiple namespaces at work here. All right, now let's get to the actual meat of what's happening here. This right here, there's a lot of stuff going on. But this is what's called the game loop. So I mentioned how game loops are very common. In fact, it was one of the midterm questions. That while loop, as long as window is open, will loop forever, right? Window is a variable that we created above, here. It has a function member called isOpen. Guess what that thing returns true if the window is open? So if I'm running this program, that while loop will run as long as this window is open. As soon as I close it, everything shuts down. The game's over. I close the program, right? So when this thing returns false, that's when it stops the loop. Okay, so let's go over here. This is a nested loop. It's weird. Like, how does this work? What is an SF event? So an event, in this case, is something that Windows is telling you the player is doing right now. This is where you get the input from the player about things like, hey, he wants to quit right now, which is what that if statement does. Or, hey, you lost focus. Or, hey, someone minimized you. Or, hey, someone resized your window. These are things that Windows will tell you are happening to your game. So because this is a Windows program, when you click the little X or the maximize button or the minimize button, Windows will tell you about all those things. So what this is doing is that there's another loop here. Something called poll event. And poll event will return true as long as there's something that Windows wants to tell you about. Usually, this thing is pretty empty. It doesn't really do much that you care about. So for the most part, this while loop doesn't do anything. But in the rare case where you click on the X, you'll get an event, and that type will be SF event closed. And if that case happens, you call a member function called close on the window. Okay. Right now, that's the only way I can close this program. I can't hit escape, I can't hit Q or anything. I actually have to click on the X. If I got rid of this, now I can't close my window at all. I will do this. So I just made my program unclosable. Literally, there's... So this right here is what's responsible for closing it. All right. And this is what typically is much, much bigger, but is the simplest example of a render loop. So there's 3 parts to drawing anything in a 3D game or 2D game, in any game that's not like a text-based game. The first thing you do is every time you run through this loop, you wipe off, you basically erase everything that you drew the last frame. Everything that you just did, erase it all. You don't need it anymore. It's out of date. You drew something, like imagine Call of Duty, right? You're running around with a gun. In one frame, you're standing at a specific position. Maybe you're about to shoot. The next time you go to draw, you have to wipe out everything that happened before and draw a whole nother set of data from scratch. Every time that you draw something in a game, almost 60 times a second, it deletes what was there and then redraws a new set based on new information. Then it deletes everything that was there and draws another set 60 times a second. So window.clear is clearing everything that was drawn before. This right here has to happen. If you do not clear the window, you're going to be drawing on top of what you were drawing before. Okay? Which means if I were to say have a ball that's moving from one side of the screen to the other, and I didn't clear the window every frame, it would be drawing a ghost like pattern behind it. Not only would it be drawing that, it would draw everything. You guys ever see the solitaire like victory screen? Yeah. Looks like this. It would look like that. The ball would move. And maybe you want that in some cases, but for the most part, for most games, you do not want that. The next part is that you tell the window what you want to draw. After you've cleared everything, the next thing to do is build it all up again. You're going to draw everything that you need to. You're going to basically, it's kind of like you're at your desk drawing something. You're going to draw all these shapes with the right colors. I'm here, I'm telling the window I want to draw this shape that I had that I declared earlier called Keith. And I'm going to display it after I'm done. Display takes what you're drawing and actually puts it on the monitor. Okay? These two are separate. Doing this will not take what you're drawing and present it to the monitor. If you actually want that to happen, this actually takes what you had temporarily drawn and displays it to the screen. This is called swapping the buffers. You're drawing to one buffer that's off screen. When you're done drawing to it, you present that all at once. Okay? And you do that all in one time. You basically flip it immediately. Otherwise, you don't want to draw, you don't want to display it every time you draw. Otherwise, you're going to see every piece come in as it's rendered. You want to do it all at once, and when you're done, you want to present it to the monitor. Okay? All right. So here's what I want you guys to do. I'm going to give you this up on Zool because I want you, it's called SDVA engine. I'll put it up on Zool. And I kind of just want you to take some time to do this. It looks like a lot, but it's actually not. Like, change the size of the window to be 1280 by 720. You guys already know how to do that. Change the color of the circle to be red. Change the size to be 300. Okay. Put up on Zool. There's something called SDVA engine. Copy it locally. Inside the engine folder, there's a solution. You can just double click to open. Engine folder.
And ZLOS
Should be something called engine.sln.
51
and for your followers,
No way.
you get a puzzles woman.
Yeah, engine.sln. No, I did not. Do you need a book?
Alright, so we want this,
I think I have it, but I just want to make sure I do have it, so I'll take it.
Okay, so the next thing is
Hang on, I'm going to move this over here.
alright. You want to try it over here? See what she's doing for the journey? Alright, ready for your luck? Alright, let's see what you get. Here of night.
Is it okay if we have his purple?
What's that?
Is it okay if we leave it as purple?
You get the obsidian
Or
graph.
that's that weird number you gave us?
Yeah, it's fine.
Mindful chain of the faded memories.
Purple.
And kilt demonic hells. You're well protected, but with no weapons.
My bottom is my weapon. I am a
Alright, here comes your followers. You ready? You get a young child, and a blacksmith.
He can make me a weapon out of that young child. See, I have a weapon now.
He's a nice boy, really escorting them back to their town. Why are you going places you shouldn't be with that mind? Yep, I watched that.
Today's just going to be kind of a playground for this SFML stuff. We'll dive more into it. And if you guys feel so inclined, why don't you spend some time playing more with it if it intrigues you. Use loops. Try drawing more than one shape.
Steven, we're going to need a lot more weapons for this.
Oh, yeah. What is the weapon that John uses?
I'm serious.
Ask him if he makes this thing or just infinitely create a shit ton of gear.
Because these ones sound awesome. I would love that pool.
I don't know. I think somebody changed. This surely will.
Did someone change the engine?
I'm pretty sure they did.
All right, you guys have to stop opening these things from the network drive. Just copy them to your desktop first. Who's editing this? You're saying someone actually edited this already?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
This necromancer's free.
Oh,
Necromancer.
Lab 264.
Okay, wait, actually, I changed my mind.
Who just double clicked on this? Okay. Someone just double clicked on this directly. I will, let me upload a new copy of this thing because
Not trolls, idiots.
copy it, copy it, copy it.
Steven. So here's how screwed this necromancer is. Or the necromancer is really good, depending on how they use their shit.
Alright.
So the necromancer is able to replace.
You guys understand the difference between copying it and opening it from the same folder? Copy it means take a copy of it, put it on your desktop. Do not just double click on this from the network drive. I put it back. I put a fresh copy up on network drive for you, Dom. So, yeah. All right, and Eric, I have the book for you. I'll put it up on Zool as well.
Not be a good person.
I don't know, I might have.
Either way, you can take it. So,
There's good necromancers.
Okay, it's kind of shaped up.
They don't have names, but there's some good ones.
I just put a brand new photo on there.
What's Kirk?
Oh, I did fail. Alright, screwed it up again.
Can you shape that, or what's that position?
No?
you guys are all copying it, right?
Yeah, that's fucking.
You're just copying the engine. No, you're not going to copy the entire folder. Copy the entire folder. You need everything inside. Damn it.
I don't know how to
Yeah, so
change
go to
this
Zool.
shape, or change this position,
Go to that folder. Just copy the entire SDVA. No. The entire SDVA. That whole thing.
Okay.
Oh, weird.
So,
Copying to your desktop.
I think that way.
yeah. Hodor. Hodor. What was that chart?
What? Bricks, like, it has something to do with how this
if I do this-
Yes, you could, but yeah, that's fine.
Wait, what is that chart?
All you do is do it.
Change the table things down when you start traveling.
Yeah.
This and stuff, over you start coming up.
Yup.
How is it my time?
Go under Windows
Yeah.
here.
Title shift,
Set it layout.
Yeah.
Just run it to start. Run engine.c. Just hit F5 or run. Click on the
Okay,
button.
what is
Just
this?
get a green circle. The first thing you should do is make sure it runs. See a green circle, you're good.
I got it. I got it and sent it.
Oh, you got a purple. What's the?
That's what it should have done.
When I kept the size at 100, because like when it was at 3.
That's what it should have done.
I was doing
Down in the center.
I'm upset he didn't do that.
Is that exactly in the center?
Yeah, don't be bad. All I did was
Check it out, boy.
and did 540.
Yeah.
Because
All
you
that
circles
is
are
gonna
there.
be like death.
Watch. Just click on
Yeah,
circle
you
shape.
basically took.
Alright. Yeah. No. You gotta keep going down clockwise. There's dragons, there's
Oh gosh, what happened?
wild beheading, drowning. What is the hypothermia, poisoning?
You guys want people to run? You guys can do that progress.
Mysterious shadow monsters. Yep, that's always a thing.
Toilet.
Dire Technically, he died by an arrow, not a toilet. So technically, the toilet should be up there. Sexual transmitted disease. Old age.
Isn't it half and half in the box?
Are they family? Yes. Are they family? No. Both answers are no. Trick question. Do not. Is this winter? No. Winter is coming. Yes. It will carry on being winter. Parents. Uncle. And middleman.
Because then you have the extra window.
Have a nice day. Holy shit, is that true? Is it 1 foot long?
Like different.
Yeah?
Good job, son. You did so well. You
That's always meant to happen. Hit disagree. No, you hit disagree on that. You disagree. Hit the disagree button. Thank you. Scroll on. Hey, you're with ISIS now. You don't give a shit. That's actually not a real problem.
Add a second
Don't mind me.
I'm just
Another question, now that it's working, I had a original problem until I got to this one.
Those are never getting set to true.
Yeah.
Where do you set those?
settings? To test it, it'll print out when it's up here.
Yeah, so where do you set that to true? So search for house active. Do a Control Shift F. Just double click on the word and then do Control Shift F. It's a find in all files. A very common thing. And then just hit find all. Do that a lot. So you can find word. Is this a comment? I guess what that line is not true. So put a breakpoint here.
Bullshit.
Oh. You're using it for very. This variable only lives in the UI.
Will you become your journey? Will you begin your journey? No.
This thing here.
Here's where we put us. Yes. Knight. Which weapon will you take? Let the gods choose me now.
Okay.
So let's shoulder
Put a
up.
breakpoint here and then run
I
it.
don't want to do that.
So let's bracer about me.
Put that blade.
Who will follow me on my journey? Blacksmith Captain.
It's in the truth, right?
You did pretty well for yourself.
Yeah,
So.
I think I did.
Necromancer got a machine gun leg, 2 chess pieces, and 3 young children to follow.
3 young children.
But as a necromancer, that's either really, that's probably really good for you.
Could be good for you.
Because now you just got 3 zombies.
3 baby zombies.
Something is.
So you're right, the arrows most likely aimed for their head will always miss.
Because they're tiny.
Shit, they're chilling.
Wait, go here.
Fuck.
Oh, these are all this valve. Okay.
All the skeletons get the machine gun leg.
So I think what's probably happening is something is clearing that value.
One second.
This is why breakpoints are good. So here's an example of where we get breakpoints. What we'll do is we set up what's called a breakpoint that is letting us catch when that thing changes. So by typing in the variable name here, it'll tell us whenever that variable changes. So what this seems to me is that there's 2 different variables that can use it. Wait.
That's like nice to yeah.
I can't get
Okay, see, so I put this here. So if it's not, yes, you're gonna make it another.
Okay, so you're gonna set this as a different one.
Oh, that's exactly what I
This.
was gonna say, that doesn't make sense.
That's what it means.
Please that one.
wow.
You're
Now
still
you're
one.
there.
Wow. Stakes have been made.
No, see, I wanted, this one here.
Yeah, because I need a place, if no, after each choice. Because it should be if I put you, it should do that. And I push Y. And I should do you. No, see, it's still fucking good.
Yeah.
Do I have to put this after each one also?
For some reason, doesn't want to give me size. Obviously doesn't have
Well, because I entered an answer 3 of this variable. So.
Yeah.
Yes. Fucking broke.
Look at this address here.
Hold on, it will work this time.
Those
Normally
are
does
the
that.
fastest break I've ever seen you have.
None.
This one is
Which one would you like to take with you? No.
different address.
You're scared of your quest?
Click on this.
Keep requesting passage?
So the problem is because this is not actually neat across all left.
Ah, well, that's not
So
right.
you actually probably
Why
want
should be, that's not an option?
Yeah, but it's not. Yes. Okay, you got the sitting grass of eternal soulless shoulder up to the front. You better do yourself.
Oh, yeah. Now, who will follow me in my journey?
Although you did only take 2 with you this time.
I'm guessing I'm putting a lot of.
That is not answer. That is not the correct. Yes. Young child sells sword peasant.
Actually, if that was the next one, that would be perfect.
Well, yeah, but you're not, so.
I'm just saying, that would have been a nice undead
Okay,
knight.
so you're a thief?
Yeah,
You
my
lost
computer's mad.
What?
My computer's mad at
So
me.
this here is
I tried.
See, it's
Basically, it's saying everything isn't, like, it's saying SF isn't my namespace.
Well, I know I did.
Why is this not being accomplished? Why is this? I don't know.
You blame Kurt?
What are you
I
trying,
mean,
where's
he's not here to blend
the
himself.
color for it?
You're changing the color of
He's
this wrong
right
one.
there, right, so.
Yeah, but he's not listening, so we can't.
Alright, let's try this again. Yes.
Oh.
Still a thief.
Shape 3?
There we go, you get the bow of
Set
the
build color?
Nice bow.
You
Oh,
get a
that's
machine gun
really
leg.
You are
And the
absolutely
city grass
right.
of infernal soul.
Okay.
See, I am useful when I try.
I'm not looking at
Well,
things.
basically you just got some fire
And then my
knowledge.
eyes don't
Look,
work.
it's like I got my awesome bow that I can never miss. When I run out of arrows,
That's perfect.
boom, motherfucker.
Exactly. Okay, now see who follows you. This could be killer.
Yeah.
Helpless woman, peasant, and a young child.
No, no, no. I can actually make that work. See, I'm a thief. I feel like these guys are thief.
You helped me. Good, thank you.
Just a small group of helpless people. They let me in. I rob all the shit when we leave.
Hold on.
Yeah. Do it.
I don't want to do that.
What?
And
Of the rectangle?
that?
You have to do rectangle
I'd almost rather have you put these in the game.
parentheses SF vector.
Because you're just trying to
That's
access
the
this
size, 'cause
thing.
there's no.
So this is the
There's
thief
no
style.
dots,
Is
there's
yeah,
not
you have this
active
problem
square.
where
Doesn't
you want to
array.
have this like array that's accessible.
Yeah.
Typically, we have a single object that has all the variables inside of it instead of just declaring globally like that.
See what
Because if you were to declare it the way to declare it here,
Soulless shoulder after fallen
I would
souls.
do this.
The
Not even
killed
doing
demonic.
this. I would have like,
Oh, but I have the powers into my ear.
I'll do
Yeah.
this.
So I am a god.
Yeah.
What's a little priest to a god? Okay, I like
No,
it.
your priest just has power.
Yeah, because I can heal myself.
That basically means it's all in your sector, so you never lose that.
Oh yeah,
Ever.
it's like, oh no, I'm taking damage. No, I'm not.
Typically, the way I do that.
That way.
Alright, let's see who you follow.
The game is the one
Oh, come on.
Ah.
that has everything inside of it.
Oh, you know what?
That sucks. That was gonna be something good.
I know, you just lost all your powers. Why are you
So the way it is,
breaking?
you
You
can
guys
either
have
have,
to keep about this.
you can either pass in the globals in here
Oh.
like this. So every time that you make
God damn it, you're breaking
You're
over.
an archer.
Every time you do this, you can pass it like.
There we go, that works.
No, I don't have a troll.
Kind of like what you do with the stage.
So let's see, you have an archer with 4
Or if
shields.
you want
That's
to,
who's
go
over the
access
necromancer.
that here.
Exactly.
All these
Wait,
things.
wait. You can make them zombies with his power.
They still die.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
He has their souls in a jar.
They
And
still
then
die.
anywhere that you're using.
Then you're just going over the necromancer. Yeah, that's not fair. Okay, troll. Dinner.
Okay, let's try this again.
Feed the small child
Let's try
to you if you kill my enemy.
Yes. Now thief with fallen soul, kill, you get 2 kills. Why?
It's like every time you're a thief, it just doesn't work.
It's not like thieves. Okay, now you're an archer.
Divided by half.
Or at least you have a bow as an archer.
No, the bow and the gun.
The diameter of this, where the center of the
But there's a peasant, a helpless woman, and a self. So at least you have a sword so you can say, watch the other 2.
Watch those motherfuckers while I shoot these bitches.
Exactly, you stand a chance. Yes, and now you're a thief. Alright, you got some good shit right there.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Oh, okay, you have done
I'm not kidding. As a farmer, be like, farmer protect these two.
You're still gonna die.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's the best chance I have. That actually is
If any of them die, you lose. So.
He's getting sucked.
No, look, I did give you good options. It's just I had you have 4. You have total of 5 young people that you ended up getting.
So if you got one Gandalf, you just have Gandalf.
Magic card, Gandalf,
Oh, no, you have magic card
troll,
for this win.
farmer, chief, soldier. I haven't gotten Kitty yet. I'm so upset about this. Okay, it's gonna be young Kitty child now.
One should be a dog. I'm not called kidding.
No, it's young Kitty child. It's like a cat child.
Young cat boy.
No, it's not a cat
I would
child.
use find replace.
The same child. It's just whatever sex you want.
Quickest, yeah,
Without
35
your
places.
fantasy.
Just replace.
You're the one with these benefits. You're the one running. You're
Young,
sick fuck.
Control Shift H.
young.
Oh, well.
Young harpy.
It's like Control H. Control H just replaces what's in the file. Control Shift H replaces
No, I thought it was harpy was
every occurrence.
That's right. All right. It's IE. Okay. Careful. Young.
Horse. Centaur.
This replaces 46 of those.
You can't do circle shape. You can.
I got
You can do that now. So anytime you see that, just roll.
Young.
Yeah, the homework is to take what's at the end of chapter 3
Oh, yeah.
and add the score.
How would I clear the shit before?
CHAL.
I'm trying.
Let me stop recording real quick.
Right there.